My name is Vorn Kallex, and I am what you might call a galactic ambassador. Or perhaps more accurately, I was one. Before everything changed, before humanity showed us exactly what they were capable of when pushed too far. Let me start at the beginning, because this story, this absolutely insane story, deserves to be told properly. The Galactic Council had existed for 17,000 cycles, all 17,000 cycles. In all that time we had seen species rise and fall. We had watched civilizations burn themselves to ash. We had witnessed wars that consumed entire star systems. But never, and I mean never, had we encountered something quite like the humans. When their application for council membership arrived at the central hub on Kelmar Prime, most of us laughed. Actually laughed. Can you believe that? The Vrigasian delegate, a pompous creature named Thork Mendar, held up the datapad and said, quote, "Another backwater species wants to play with the big leagues. How delightful." The sarcasm was thick enough to cut with a plasma blade. But protocol demanded we investigate, so they sent me. Lucky me, right? I got to visit Earth, the third planet orbiting a yellow dwarf star in what they called the Milky Way galaxy. Catchy name. I will give them that much. The moment my scout ship entered their solar system, I knew something was different. Their detection systems pinged me immediately. Not aggressive, not threatening, just a polite communication request asking who I was and what my intentions were. Polite. That was the word that would define my entire first impression of humanity. Polite. A woman named Captain Elizabeth Monroe greeted me at their orbital station. She was tall, with dark hair tied back in what humans call a ponytail, and she smiled when she shook my manipulator appendage. Actually smiled, like she was genuinely happy to meet an alien life form for the first time in her species' history. "Welcome to Earth's orbital gateway, Ambassador Kallex," she said, her voice warm and measured. "We are honored to host you." Honored. They were honored. I had expected fear, suspicion, maybe even hostility. Instead, I got hospitality. Captain Monroe escorted me to the surface, to a city called Geneva. The city sprawled beneath snow-capped mountains, clean and organized, with architecture that blended old stone buildings with gleaming modern structures.
Humans walked the streets without weapons.
Children played in parks, their crows. It was all so aggressively peaceful. The council meeting took place in a building they called the Assembly Hall. Representatives from various human nations sat around a circular table, waiting to hear why I'd come. No weapons scanners. No security protocols that I could detect, just people sitting in chairs, ready to talk. I explained the Galactic Council's function. I described the benefits of membership, access to advanced technology, protection from hostile species, trade routes spanning thousands of light years, the whole sales pitch. A man named Director Marcus Flynn, representing something called the United Earth Coalition, listened intently. He had gray hair, sharp eyes and hands that he folded carefully on the table as he spoke. "Ambassador Kallex, we appreciate this opportunity. Truly we do. But we have to ask, what exactly does protection from hostile species entail?" "Well," I said, "the Council maintains peacekeeping forces throughout the galaxy. Should any member world face aggression, the Council responds." "And how often does that happen?" This from a younger woman, Dr. Amara Singh, their chief science advisor. She wore glasses, which I found quaint since humans had clearly mastered corrective surgery. "Oh, constantly," I admitted. "The galaxy is a dangerous place. The Kralth Empire alone has launched 14 expansion campaigns in the last 1,000 cycles." The humans exchanged glances. Something passed between them that I could not quite read. "And what," Director Flynn said slowly, "would be expected of Earth in terms of military contribution?" "Nothing aggressive," I assured them. "Defensive forces only. Standard protocol requires each member world to maintain a fleet capable of system defense and to contribute ships to Council operations when called upon." More glances. More of that unreadable communication. "We will need time to consider this," Flynn said, eventually. "This is, as you can understand, a monumental decision for our species." I stayed on Earth for 3 weeks. 3 fascinating, confusing weeks. The humans showed me everything. Their cities, their agricultural systems, their educational institutions, their entertainment, their art. They let me speak with scientists, soldiers, politicians, and ordinary citizens. Everyone was friendly. Everyone was welcoming. Everyone seemed genuinely interested in galactic civilization. But here is the thing that bothered me. The thing that kept nagging at my consciousness like an itch I could not scratch. For a species on the verge of joining a galactic community known for its violence and territorial disputes, humanity seemed remarkably unconcerned about defense. Oh, they had a military. I saw that much. But it was small, compact. Their space fleet consisted of perhaps 24 combat-capable vessels and a handful of science ships. For a species of 9 billion individuals spread across multiple planets and orbital habitats, that seemed absurdly inadequate. I mentioned this to Captain Monroe during a dinner at what humans call a restaurant. We sat in a place overlooking Lake Geneva, eating food I could barely digest while I tried to understand these bizarre creatures. "Captain," I said, "I hope you do not take this the wrong way, but your military seems, well, insufficient." She laughed.
Actually laughed.
The sound was musical and completely unexpected. "Insufficient for what, Ambassador?" "For everything," I said. "The Kralth Empire alone fields battle fleets that could sterilize your entire planet in hours. The Vex Collective has war machines that could dismantle your orbital infrastructure before you could mount a response. The Thorian Swarm, the Hexar Dominion, the Plasma Lords of Sector 9, any of them could overwhelm your defenses without breaking stride." Monroe sipped her wine, human wine. "Another thing that could kill me in sufficient quantities. You know what is funny about that assessment, Ambassador? You are absolutely right." I stared at her. "That does not concern you." "Oh, it concerns me very much," she said. "But Earth has a philosophy that has served us well for centuries. We prepare for peace while remaining ready for war. We extend friendship to everyone, but we are not naive about the galaxy's dangers." "Then where are your battle stations? Your defense platforms? Your dreadnoughts?" She smiled that mysterious human smile again. "Would you like to see something interesting, Ambassador?" 2 days later, I found myself in a facility buried beneath a mountain in a place called Colorado. Director Flynn met us there, along with a military officer named General Thomas Wright. Wright was older, with a face that looked like it had been carved from granite and eyes that missed nothing. "Ambassador Kallex," Flynn said, "you have been asking about our defenses, about why we seem so unconcerned with military preparedness despite knowing the galaxy's hostile nature. We think it is time to show you why humanity is not worried." They led me through security checkpoints, past armed guards who nodded politely but whose weapons were very much real and very much loaded, down elevators that descended far deeper than any civilian structure had business going, into chambers that hummed with power and purpose. And then they showed me. "Holy Mother of all star systems," I whispered. The chamber, and I am not exaggerating here, was the size of a small city. Holographic displays covered every wall, showing star charts, tactical assessments, ship movements, and threat analyses updated in real time. Hundreds of humans worked at stations, monitoring everything from deep space sensor arrays to gravitational anomalies to communication intercepts. "Welcome," General Wright said, his voice carrying that peculiar human quality of understated authority, "to the Defense Coordination Center. This facility, along with 12 others strategically placed throughout the solar system, manages Earth's actual defensive capabilities." "But I saw your fleet," I protested.
24 ships. That is it."
Wright smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator who has let you think you were safe.
"You saw our visible fleets, Ambassador."
"The ships we let people see because it makes visitors like you comfortable. The ships we parade around during diplomatic missions. The ships that look friendly and non-threatening." Phil touched a control panel. Holographic display shifted, showing the solar system from a tactical perspective. Small icons appeared. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands, then thousands. "Our actual defensive fleet," Flynn said casually, "consists of approximately 4,000 combat vessels of various classes, 300 orbital weapons platforms, 67 strategic asteroid bases, and 41 mobile battle stations positioned throughout the solar system and at key points along potential invasion vectors." My breathing apparatus stopped working properly. I think I made a sound somewhere between a gasp and a choking noise. 4,000, I managed to say. "You have 4,000 warships. That is just the sole defense force." Monroe added helpfully. "The colonial fleet protecting our outer system holdings adds another 800 ships. Then there are the rapid response teams, the stealth reconnaissance units, and the automated defense networks." I sat down, Actually sat down right there on the floor because my legs stopped supporting my weight. But how? I asked. How did you build all this?
How did you hide all this?
Our scans showed nothing like this level of military development. Wright crouched down to my level. His eyes were hard but not unkind, because we wanted you to see exactly what we wanted you to see. Ambassador, humanity learned a long time ago that appearing weak has advantages. It makes potential enemies overconfident. It makes friends underestimate what we can contribute. It lets us control the narrative. You lied to the Council. No, Flynn said firmly. We answered every question asked of us truthfully. No one asked if we had hidden military installations. No one asked about classified defensive systems. No one asked if the fleet you saw represented our total military capability. They assumed, and we let them assume. Monroe helped me to my feet. Ambassador, humanity has been to this dance before. We have fought wars among ourselves for thousands of years. We know what aggression looks like. We know what a conquest requires. We know what it takes to defend what is ours. When we reached the stars and discovered we were not alone, we made a choice. We would be peaceful, welcoming, and friendly to everyone we met. But we would never ever be defenseless. General Wright pulled up another display. This one showed weapon specifications. Plasma cannons that could punch through standard shielding like tissue paper. Kinetic railguns that fired projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. Missile systems with yields that made my brain hurt trying to calculate the destructive potential. And something they called quantum disruption torpedoes that, according to the readout, could destabilize matter at the subatomic level. Earth may look like a pleasant garden world full of friendly people who just want to get along, Wright said. And that is true. We are friendly. We do want to get along. We prefer peace over conflict every single time. But if someone mistakes our preference for peace as an inability to wage war, they will learn a very painful and very final lesson. I spent the next week reviewing data they provided, technical specifications, training protocols, strategic doctrines, simulation results from war games they had run against theoretical alien invasions. The humans had not just built a military, they had built a military specifically designed to counter every known galactic threat profile and several theoretical ones besides. They had studied us, all of us, the Kralth Empire's expansion tactics, the Vex Collective's swarm strategies, the Thorian boarding protocols, the Hexar siege doctrines. Every major military power in the galaxy had been analyzed, assessed, and countered. When I finally returned to Kelmar Prime to deliver my report, the council chamber fell silent as I described what I had found. Thork Mendar, that pompous Phyrexian who had laughed at humanity's application, turned a rather unpleasant shade of purple. You are telling us, he said slowly, that this species, which presented itself as a minor spacefaring civilization, has a military force that rivals the Council's peacekeeping fleet. I am telling you, I said, that humanity has a military force that could probably fight the Council's peacekeeping fleet to a standstill, and win. Maybe not easily, but they would win. The room erupted. Representatives shouted. Delegates demanded proof. The council head, an ancient being named Archon Velis, slammed his staff against the floor 3 times to restore order. This is unprecedented, Velis said, his voice carrying the weight of 17,000 cycles of experience. A species develops in isolation, reaches space, encounters galactic civilization, and is already prepared for war before making first contact. This speaks to either remarkable foresight or paranoid aggression. Neither, Archon, I said. It speaks to experience. Humanity has been fighting for survival since before they left their homeworld. They have fought nature. They have fought each other. They have fought extinction-level events. They learned to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. They learned that strength deters aggression better than weakness invites protection. So what do they want? This from the Sindari representative, a species that prided itself on strategic thinking. If they are this powerful, why seek council membership at all? Because, I said, they genuinely want to be part of the galactic community. They want to trade, to share knowledge, to form alliances, to explore together. They do not want conquest. They do not want domination. They just want to make sure that if someone tries to conquer or dominate them, that someone is going to have a very, very bad day. The vote to grant Earth Council membership passed unanimously. Not because we welcomed them, not really, but because having them inside the council structure seemed safer than having them outside it. Humanity took their seat among the galactic powers 3 months later. Director Flynn represented Earth, with Captain Monroe as his military advisor and Dr. Singh as his science consultant. They smiled. They were polite. They made friends with everyone. And then, 6 months after joining the council, everything went to hell. The Kralth Empire, emboldened by 17 successful expansion campaigns and drunk on their own superiority, decided to test the new member. A human mining colony on the edge of the Kepler frontier reported Kralth vessels in their space, demanding they surrender the system or be destroyed. The colony's response was pure humanity. They politely declined the surrender demand, explained that the system was legally claimed under council charter, and suggested the Kralth fleet might want to reconsider their position. The Kralth commander, a war leader named Thrak Doomclaw, and yes, that was actually his name, thought this was hilarious. He was recorded saying, quote, "These soft creatures think words will stop my warships. We will show them what real power looks like." He ordered his fleet to advance. That was his first mistake. It was also his last. The mining colony, you see, was not just a mining colony. It was also home to the 7th Human Rapid Response Fleet, stationed there specifically because the Kepler frontier was a likely target for Kralth expansion. What happened next became known as the Kepler Incident. The galactic media covered it extensively. Military academies across the galaxy now study it as a case study in defensive warfare. Thrak Doomclaw brought 43 warships to intimidate a human colony. Standard Kralth intimidation tactics.
I'll show up with overwhelming force. Demand surrender, take what you want.
The humans showed him what overwhelming force actually looked like. 300 human vessels dropped out of hyperspace around the Kralth fleet. Not dozens, not 100. 300. They had been waiting in stealth positions throughout the system, silent and invisible, just watching to see if the Kralth would actually be stupid enough to attack. General Wright was in command of the operation. His communication to Thrak Doomclaw was broadcast across every frequency and recorded for posterity. Attention, Kralth vessels. This is General Thomas Wright of the United Earth Defense Force. You have violated Council space and threatened a human colony. You have exactly 60 seconds to power down your weapons, engage emergency retreat protocols, and leave this system. If you choose not to comply, we will show you why humanity does not bluff. Thrak Doomclaw, because he was apparently even dumber than he looked, responded by opening fire on the nearest human ship. The battle lasted 47 seconds. 47 seconds. The Kralth Empire's expansion fleet was completely disabled, not destroyed, mind you. The humans could have vaporized every ship in that fleet without breaking a sweat. Instead, they systematically stripped away weapons, engines, and shields, leaving 43 Kralth warships floating dead in space, powerless and defenseless. Then General Wright sent another message. This one went directly to the Kralth Imperial Command. Your forces initiated unprovoked hostilities against a human colony in violation of Council law. Your fleet has been disabled and will be towed to the nearest Council authority for processing. No Kralth personnel were killed, because humanity does not seek revenge. But understand this clearly: if the Kralth Empire or any other power threatens human territory again, our response will be significantly less gentle. We are a peaceful people, but peaceful does not mean powerless, and it definitely does not mean afraid. The message ended with a display showing the full tactical disposition of Earth's military forces, all of it, every ship, every platform, every weapon, every capability. A complete and comprehensive demonstration that humanity had the military muscle to back up every word they said. The Galactic Council chambers went absolutely silent when that broadcast finished. Then Archon Velis started laughing.
Actually laughing.
This ancient being who had seen 17,000 cycles of galactic politics just sat there and laughed until tears ran down his face equivalent. "Oh," he said when he finally caught his breath. "Oh, this is perfect. For 17,000 cycles we have maintained peace through carefully balanced power structures and diplomatic protocols and endless negotiations. And then these humans show up, smile at everyone, build a fleet that could level half the known galaxy, and calmly explain that they will happily be peaceful as long as nobody is stupid enough to start something. This is the most refreshingly honest approach to galactic politics I have ever witnessed." Thorkmander was not laughing. "They are dangerous," he said. "Any species with that much military power is a threat." "No," I said, standing to address the council. "They are not a threat. They are a promise. Humanity promises to be peaceful, to honor their agreements, to work cooperatively with all species. But they also promise that anyone who mistakes their civility for weakness will learn exactly why Earth survived long enough to reach the stars. And honestly, after watching 17,000 cycles of species threatening each other while pretending to be civilized, I find humanity's approach remarkably honest. The Council voted to formally condemn the Kralth Empire's actions and imposed sanctions. The Kralth, facing a unified council backed by humanity's now very visible military power, backed down completely. Their emperor sent an official apology and recalled all expansion fleets to home territory. It was the first time in living memory that the Kralth Empire had retreated without someone having to fight a decade-long war to make them leave. And that, my friends, is when the galaxy learned the most important lesson about humanity. They mean every word they say. When they promise peace, they deliver peace. When they promise friendship, they deliver friendship. But when they promise consequences for aggression, they absolutely positively deliver those consequences too. What untried? Captain Monroe put it best during a press conference, following the Kepler Incident. A reporter asked if humanity was trying to intimidate the galaxy with their military display. Her response became one of the most quoted statements in modern galactic history. We are not trying to intimidate anyone. We are simply ensuring that everyone understands the situation clearly. Humanity will never throw the first punch, but we will absolutely throw the last one. We prefer handshakes to fistfights. But if someone insists on a fistfight, they should know that we have been training for exactly that scenario for our entire existence. We are peaceful by choice, not by necessity, and that choice remains ours to make. As I sit here now, reflecting on everything that has happened, I realize that humanity taught the galaxy something we had forgotten over 17,000 cycles of so-called civilization. True peace does not come from being too weak to fight. True peace comes from being strong enough that fighting is unnecessary. The humans proved that you can be both friendly and formidable. You can smile at your neighbors while maintaining the capability to obliterate anyone who threatens your home. You can prefer negotiation while keeping your weapons sharp. You can be peaceful without being defenseless. And honestly, the galaxy is better for learning that lesson. But this story does not end with the Kepler Incident. Oh no, that was just humanity's introduction to galactic politics. What came next would test whether their philosophy of peace backed by overwhelming force could survive a real existential threat. Because 6 months after the Kepler Incident, we received a message from the Outer Rim that made every species in the galaxy remember their oldest nightmares. The Devourers were coming. And humanity was about to show us exactly what they were truly capable of when the stakes were not about territory or politics or pride. When the stakes were survival itself. The Devourers. Even saying that name sends shivers through every species that knows galactic history. They were the reason half the council chambers sat empty. They were the reason entire sectors of space remained permanently quarantined. They were the reason ancient civilizations built their cities underground and taught their children to fear the dark between stars. 300 cycles ago, they had swept through the Outer Rim like a plague. 17 civilizations went silent in less than a standard year. Not conquered, not enslaved, silent. Every station destroyed, every colony consumed, every ship dismantled for raw materials. The Devourers did not negotiate. They did not communicate. They simply arrived, consumed everything, and moved on. The Council had fought them. Oh, how we had fought. Every major power contributed fleets. The Verxian Armada, the Sindari War Spheres, the Keltheran Dreadnoughts. The combined might of galactic civilization threw everything we had at the Devourers. We barely survived. Barely. The cost was astronomical. Millions of ships lost. Millions of lives ended. Entire planets stripped to bedrock. The Devourers eventually withdrew, but not because we defeated them. They simply ran out of targets in our region and moved on to hunt elsewhere in the galaxy. For 300 cycles we had lived with the knowledge that they would return, that somewhere out there in the infinite dark, they were consuming other civilizations, growing stronger, building their swarm. And now they were back. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was the most chaotic thing I had ever witnessed. Representatives screamed over each other. Some demanded immediate evacuation of rim worlds. Others insisted on fortifying core systems. A few, the more pessimistic ones, suggested surrendering territory to buy time. Director Flynn sat quietly through all of it, just sat there with his hands folded, watching the council tear itself apart in panic. Captain Monroe stood behind him. her expression unreadable. Dr. Singh was reviewing data on a tablet, occasionally making notes. Finally, Archon Velis slammed his staff down so hard it cracked the stone floor. Enough, enough, screaming like terrified hatchlings. We face an existential threat. Yes, but we are the Galactic Council. We have survived for 17,000 cycles. We will face this threat together. Wubeys. With what? Thorkmandar demanded. His earlier pompousness had evaporated into raw fear. The Devourers consumed the combined Council fleet last time. Our current forces are barely half what they were then. We have no chance. No chance at all. Actually, Director Flynn said calmly, you have us. The chamber went quiet. Every eye, sensor, and sensory organ turned toward the human delegation. Flynn stood up slowly. Hearth would like to propose a joint defense strategy. We have been analyzing the historical data on the Devourer incursion. We have studied their tactics, their ship designs, their consumption patterns, and we believe we can stop them. You believe, Mendar said, his voice dripping with contempt. You have been in space for less than 2 centuries. You have been part of this council for less than a year. And you think you can stop a threat that nearly destroyed galactic civilization 300 cycles ago? Blind smiled, but that terrifying human smile that I had learned meant they knew something you did not. Ambassador Mendar, with all due respect, humanity has been preparing for existential threats since we lived in caves and fought predators with sharpened sticks. The breeze may be advanced. They may be powerful. They may be terrifying, but they are not the first thing that has tried to wipe us out. And they will not be the last. Monroe activated a holographic display. The image showed the outer rim, with red markers indicating Devourer fleet positions. There were hundreds of markers, maybe thousands. The scale was horrifying. Current Devourer strength is estimated at 12,000 capital ships, 40,000 support vessels, and an unknown number of harvester drones, Monroe said, her voice steady and professional. Their vanguard will reach the first inhabited systems in approximately 45 days. Full invasion force will arrive within 90 days. Thank you for that terrifying summary, Captain, Mender said. But knowing how badly we are about to lose does not help us. We are not going to lose, Flynn said simply. Here is what Earth proposes. We will coordinate the defense of the Outer Rim. We will provide tactical command, strategic planning, and the majority of combat forces. In exchange, we need complete operational authority and access to all Council military assets. The chamber erupted again. Give humans complete military control? Unthinkable, unprecedented, absolutely out of the question. Except we were out of options, and everyone knew it. Archon Velis studied Flynn for a long moment.
You understand what you are asking?
Complete authority means the survival or extinction of dozens of species rests in your hands. If you fail, if your strategy does not work, billions will die. Ma'am, I understand perfectly, Archon, Flynn said. But if we do nothing, billions will die anyway. At least this way we die fighting. And humanity is very, very good at fighting. The vote took 3 hours. In the end, it passed. Not unanimously, not even close, but it passed. The Council granted Earth operational command of the defensive fleet with a simple mandate: stop the Devourers, whatever it takes. General Wright arrived at the forward operations base on Kelmar Station. 2 days later, he brought with him a staff of 300 human officers, thousands of technical specialists, and an attitude that made veteran Council military leaders look like nervous cadets. I was assigned as Council liaison to the human command structure. Lucky me, right? I got front row seats to watch humanity either save the galaxy or doom us all. The first briefing was memorable. Wright stood in front of a room full of admirals, war masters, fleet commanders, and combat veterans from a dozen species. These were beings who had fought in countless battles, who had commanded millions of troops, who had seen horrors that would break lesser minds. Wright looked at them and said, "All right, listen up. Everything you know about fighting the Devourers is wrong. Every tactic you used last time failed because you fought them like they were a traditional enemy. They are not. They are a force of nature, and you do not fight nature head-on. Rather, wars of nature, and you do not fight nature head-on. You redirect it, you channel it, you use its own momentum against it." A Keltheran admiral named Vex Thorak bristled.
Human.
"I fought the Devourers 300 cycles ago. I watched them tear through our defenses like they were made of paper. Do not presume to lecture me about how to fight them. Wright did not blink. Admiral Thoric, I have read your after-action reports. 14 fleet engagements. You lost 13. The only one you won was when a stellar anomaly disrupted Devourer formations, and you managed to retreat with minimal losses. That is not a victory. That is survival through luck. Now, would you like to keep fighting them the way that almost got you killed? Or would you like to try something that might actually work? Thoric's face went through several interesting color changes, but he sat down, because Wright was right, and everyone in that room knew it. The human strategy was insane. Absolutely, completely insane, which is probably why it had a chance of working. Instead of meeting the Devourers head-on, humanity proposed a defense-in-depth strategy using the Outer Rim's unique stellar geography. The Rim was full of asteroid fields, nebulae, unstable star systems, and gravitational anomalies, terrain that made conventional fleet movements difficult. Wright planned to use all of it. We are going to turn the entire Outer Rim into a kill zone, he explained. We will seed every asteroid field with automated weapon platforms. We will hide fleet elements in nebula. We will use gravity wells to disrupt their formations. We will make them pay for every light year they advance. And while they are grinding through our defenses, we will be studying them, learning their patterns, finding their weaknesses. And then? Dr. Singh asked. Wright grinned. It was not a nice grin. Then we hit them where it hurts. The Devourers operate on a hive network. Central command ships coordinate the swarm.
Kill the command ships, and the rest fall into confusion. So that is what we are going to do.
The Seva said. But their diggers are Hugh. We are going to let them advance far enough to identify their command structure, and then we are going to cut the head off the snake. That requires sacrificing territory, a Sindari commander pointed out. Heroes will be lost. We are evacuating all Rim colonies, Monroe said. Every civilian, every non-essential installation, everyone gets pulled back to safe zones. We will not sacrifice lives needlessly. But yes, we will lose territory. That is the price of fighting smart instead of fighting proud. The next 40 days were the most intense military mobilization the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships poured out of Sol system like water from a broken dam. Thousands of vessels. Automated platforms by the millions. Weapon systems that made Council engineers weep with envy and fear. But it was not just human forces. Wright somehow convinced Council species to integrate their fleets into his tactical plan. Phyrexian heavy cruisers, Kelthoran assault carriers, Sindari stealth frigates. Even the Plasma Lords contributed their devastating energy platforms. And the humans tied it all together with a level of coordination that should not have been possible. Their command and control systems could track millions of individual units across hundreds of star systems in real time. Every ship, every platform, every mine, every drone, all of it connected into one vast tactical network. I asked Captain Monroe how they had developed such advanced coordination systems. Her answer was pure humanity. We used to play video games where players controlled armies of thousands of units simultaneously. Then we got really good at air traffic control. Then we applied both concepts to space warfare. Turns out managing a galactic defense network is not that different from managing a really complicated strategy game, just with higher stakes. Video games. They were using lessons from video games to coordinate a galactic defense. It was absurd. It was brilliant. It was so very, very human. The Devourers arrived exactly on schedule. Their vanguard hit the first defensive line in the Kelmar Reach on day 46. 1,200 Devourer capital ships against 2,000 automated defense platforms and 300 Council vessels in supporting positions. The battle lasted 8 hours. The humans lost 70% of their platforms and the Council fleet took heavy damage. But the Devourers lost 400 ships. 400 ships that could have torn through those defenses easily. 300 cycles ago, now struggled against coordinated fire and tactical positioning. Wright watched the battle from the command center, his expression never changing. When it was over, when the Devourers had forced their way through and continued their advance, he simply nodded. Good. That went exactly as planned. They now think they understand our capabilities. Time to show them they are wrong. The second defensive line hit them in the Thalos Nebula. The Devourers expected another static defense. Instead, they got ambushed by human stealth squadrons hiding in the nebula's radiation. Fast attack ships appeared from nowhere, fired kinetic kill vehicles at point-blank range, and vanished back into the clouds before the Devourers could respond. The third line was an asteroid field laced with gravity mines. Ships that tried to push through found themselves pulled off course, colliding with rocks, spinning helplessly while human railguns picked them apart from maximum range. The fourth line, the fifth, the sixth. Each one different. Each one designed to exploit a specific vulnerability. Each one costing the Devourers more ships while teaching the humans more about how the enemy operated. Admiral Thoric watched the tactical display with something like awe. They are herding them. By all the ancient stars, the humans are herding the Devourers like livestock. He was right. Every defensive line, every ambush, every tactical retreat pushed the Devourer fleet along a specific vector, funneling them, constraining them, forcing them into a corridor that seemed like the path of least resistance but was actually leading them exactly where Wright wanted them. On day 70, the Devourers reached the Terminus system, a binary star system with unstable gravitational fields and no strategic value. The perfect place for the final act. Wright assembled the entire Council fleet, every ship that could fight, every species that could contribute, humans, Brexians, Keltherans, Sindari, everyone, 5,000 ships representing the combined military might of galactic civilization. But that was not the scary part. The scary part was the human heavy fleet that emerged from behind the system's larger star, ships that made the Council vessels look like toys, dreadnoughts, 3 kilometers long, carriers that launched fighter wings by the thousands, battle cruisers bristling with weapons that bent physics in disturbing ways. Where did those come from? I asked Monroe. We were on the flagship, watching preparations for the battle. Strategic reserve, she said casually. We built them over the last 50 years, just in case. You know, for situations exactly like this one. You built a fleet of super dreadnoughts just in case an ancient enemy attacked the galaxy. Well, when you put it that way, it sounds paranoid. We prefer to think of it as prudent planning. The Devourers entered the Terminus system with their full invasion force. 12,000 capital ships, 40,000 support vessels, hundreds of thousands of harvester drones, the largest military formation anyone had seen in living memory. Wright let them commit fully to the system, let them spread out, let them begin harvesting operations on the system's resource-rich asteroids, let them think they had won this round and could resupply before pushing deeper into Council space. Then he sprang the trap. The human heavy fleet appeared first, dropping out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Their opening salvo obliterated 300 Devourer ships in the first 10 seconds. The sound, even transmitted through vacuum via the communication net, was like thunder. The Council fleet hit them from the flanks. Verxian cruisers, Keltheran carriers, Sindari stealth units, all executing a coordinated assault that would have made military historians weep. Every species using their unique strengths. Every fleet element supporting the others. Perfect tactical integration. And then the humans revealed their real surprise. Dr. Singh's research team had developed something based on studying captured Devourer technology. A quantum disruption weapon that could sever the Hive network connections. Break the command and control system that let the Devourers operate as one massive organism. The weapon fired, a pulse of energy that spread through the Devourer fleet like wildfire. And suddenly 12,000 capital ships stopped acting like a coordinated swarm and started acting like 12,000 individual ships with no idea what to do. Now, Wright said calmly, all units, execute assault pattern Omega. Target command vessels. Fire at will. What followed was not so much a battle, as it was systematic dismantling. The Devourers fought back, of course. They destroyed hundreds of Council ships. Thousands of human vessels went silent. The casualties were horrific. But without their network coordination, without their command structure, they were just ships. Dangerous ships, yes. But ships that could be fought, ships that could be beaten. The battle raged for 3 days. 3 days of constant combat. 3 days of humanity and the Council throwing everything they had at an enemy that had terrified the galaxy for millennia. And on the 4th day, the last Devourer command ship exploded. Its death released a pulse of energy that shut down every remaining Devourer vessel simultaneously. 12,000 ships, or what was left of them, simply went dark. Dead, in space. No power, no weapons, no threat. The combined fleet held position for 6 hours, weapons hot, waiting to see if it was a trick, but the Devourers did not recover. They did not reboot. They did not spring back to life for one final attack. They were done. Finished. Eliminated as a threat to galactic civilization. General Wright stood in the command center, staring at the tactical display showing thousands of disabled Devourer hulks. His expression was unreadable. Finally, he said, "Get me casualty reports, and someone start organizing search and rescue for any survivors. I do not care what species. If they are alive, we bring them home." The final count was devastating. 2,800 Council ships lost, 6,000 human vessels destroyed, nearly 400,000 personnel killed in action across all species, the largest battle casualties in recorded history. But the Devourers were gone, completely and totally eliminated, every ship disabled or destroyed. Their technology captured for study, their threat ended. The victory celebration on Kelmar Station was subdued. Too many empty chairs, too many friends who would not be coming home, but there was also relief. The nightmare that had haunted the galaxy for 300 cycles was over. Director Flynn addressed the council 1 week after the battle. He looked tired. They all looked tired. Fighting a war that determined the survival of galactic civilization will do that to you. The Galactic Council hired humanity to stop the Devourers. Flynn said, "We have fulfilled that contract. The threat is ended. But I want to make something clear. We did not win because humans are special. We did not win because we are smarter or tougher or better than anyone else. We won because every species in this chamber put aside their differences and fought together. Because Vrixian courage and Kelthoran strength and Sindari cunning and human stubbornness combined into something greater than any of us alone. That is the lesson here. Together, we are unstoppable." Archon Velis stood. The ancient being looked older somehow, but also strangely content. 300 cycles ago, the Devourers nearly destroyed us, because we fought as separate powers protecting separate interests. This time, we fought as one civilization defending one galaxy, and we won. I think perhaps humanity has taught us more than military tactics. They have reminded us what we could be when we stop seeing each other as competitors and start seeing each other as allies. The chamber erupted in applause, not the polite applause of diplomatic protocol.
Real applause.
Cheering. Species that had been rivals for millennia standing together to honor the dead and celebrate the living. Thorkmendar, the Vrigasian, who had laughed at humanity's council application, approached Flynn after the session. "I'll watch their interaction carefully, expecting conflict." Instead, Mendar extended his manipulator appendage. "I was wrong about your species, Director. I thought you were weak. I thought you were naive. I thought you were dangerous. I was correct about the last part but wrong about why. You are dangerous because you make the rest of us want to be better. That is a far more powerful weapon than any dreadnought." Flynn shook his appendage. "Ambassador Mendar, humanity does not want to make anyone better. We just want to make sure that when the scary thing comes out of the dark, we have enough friends standing beside us to face it together, because that is how you survive in a dangerous universe. Not by being the strongest, but by making sure you are never standing alone." 6 months later, I attended the dedication ceremony for the Terminus Memorial, a massive structure built in the binary system where the final battle occurred. Names of the fallen were inscribed on walls that stretched for kilometers. Every species, every rank, every individual who gave their life to stop the Devourers. Captain Monroe stood beside me, looking at the wall that held human names, thousands of them. Too many. "Was it worth it?" I asked quietly. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "My grandfather fought in a war on Earth centuries ago. Someone asked him the same question. He said that protecting people you care about is always worth it, even when it costs everything. Even when the price seems too high. Because if you are not willing to stand up when evil comes calling, then what are you even living for? Your species has a remarkable capacity for sacrifice." "No," she said. "Every species has that capacity. We just refuse to pretend otherwise. Humans learned a long time ago that survival requires 2 things, the strength to fight when necessary, and the wisdom to know when fighting is the only option left. The Devourers gave us no choice. So we fought, and we won. And now we get to go home and mourn our dead and hope we never have to do something like this again. And if you do? If another threat emerges?" She smiled, that particularly human smile that mixed sadness and determination. "Then we will do it again. Because that is what peaceful species do when someone threatens their home. They stop being peaceful just long enough to remove the threat. Then, they go right back to being peaceful. Because peace is what we prefer. Peace is what we choose. But peace is not the same as helplessness." I think that is when I truly understood humanity. They were not warriors pretending to be diplomats. They were diplomats who happened to be very, very good at war when they had to be. They built weapons not because they loved violence but because they understood that sometimes violence is the only answer to violence. They maintained vast militaries not to conquer but to ensure they would never be conquered. They were peaceful, genuinely, honestly peaceful, but they were never ever defenseless. The galaxy learned that lesson, and it was a lesson we desperately needed. The Galactic Council changed after the Devourer War. We stopped seeing military strength as a threat. We started seeing it as insurance. We stopped competing over who had the largest fleet. We started cooperating to ensure everyone had enough defensive capability to protect themselves. Humanity had shown us a better way, not the way of pacifism that leaves you vulnerable, not the way of aggression that makes you the threat, but the way of prepared peace, strong enough to deter enemies, friendly enough to make allies, wise enough to know the difference, wise enough to know the difference. And honestly, the galaxy has been better for it. I retired from diplomatic service last cycle. I now teach at the Interspecies Military Academy on Kelmar Prime. I tell students from dozens of worlds about the Devourer War, about how humanity taught us to fight together, about how prepared peace is better than enforced submission, the parazoinget of pores, submission. But mostly, I tell them about the day I met humans for the first time, how they smiled and shook my hand and offered me wine, how they showed me their cities and their art and their culture, how they seemed so peaceful and friendly and welcoming. And then I tell them about the day those same humans revealed they had spent centuries building a military force powerful enough to fight the most terrifying enemy the galaxy had ever faced. They had prepared for war while hoping for peace. They had built weapons they never wanted to use, just to ensure they would never be forced to surrender. When tell them that humanity proved something the galaxy had forgotten, that the strongest civilizations are not the ones who strike first. They are the ones who make sure they never have to strike at all, because everyone knows exactly what will happen if they do. Humanity is peaceful, genuinely, wonderfully peaceful. They trade, they share knowledge, they make friends, they explore, they create art and music and literature. But peaceful does not mean defenseless, and it never ever means weak. It means they chose mercy when they could have chosen vengeance. It means they extended friendship when they could have demanded submission. It means they saved a galaxy that had laughed at them, doubted them, and underestimated them. That is humanity. Peaceful by preference, dangerous by necessity, and absolutely, completely, utterly unwilling to let anyone mistake one for the other. The galaxy is lucky they are on our side, because the alternative does not bear thinking about. Trust me on that one. I have seen what humans can do when they stop being polite, and it is absolutely terrifying.